So
What are your
it's sort of
thoughts
different.
on giant anacondas? Like, because there's
Oh, boy.
always been this thing about enormous anacondas that live in the rainforest.
Giant snakes. And no, I'm not talking about that one high school friend you had who kissed your boyfriend behind your back. I'm talking about the Titanoboa, one of the largest snakes to have ever existed, and might just still be lurking around today, at least from what some of these people might claim. There were people who actually lived alongside these giant snakes, humans that lived during the time where they were much more prominent and much more of a threat. In South America, this year, this source comes from The Independent. Cave drawings were discovered of giant snakes ranging from 16 to 43 meters. This photo here specifically being the one that was supposedly 43 meters. Not to mention other extremely large bugs like an 11-meter centipede. Yeah, I'm glad I was born in this era. I cannot stand house centipedes, let alone one that's twice the size of me. Dr. Philip Rees of Bournemouth University says, our field research in Colombia and Venezuela is, for the very first time, revealing a previously large, unknown, and unrecorded ancient culture in this remote part of South America. We hope that this will allow the modern world to appreciate the long-lost artistic and other achievements of the people who lived here many centuries before European colonization. It's absolutely fascinating how long artists have been around and giving us these gifts of records from their time. Was it possible they made them more grander than they were? Probably, but I mean, hey, who hasn't blown up a little truth in their time? There was also a total of 7 snakes recorded on these walls, and these scientists believe they may be a part of a much larger mega serpent culture. Within the same article, there was even a drawing of a 411-meter snake estimated to have been created around 700 to 1000 AD, made by ancient Native American people in Colombia. Yeah, no thanks, I'm good. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. An interesting fact as well, a lot of these snake paintings were drawn on high out of reach places due to religious reasons, and showcasing these high up would act as some sort of oracle for them, using shamans or other mediators to speak for them. Who needs a shaman though when you know parcel tongue? I may not love snakes, but science rules, and this one just happened to have a snake talking about it. I'm taking you all the way to Cerrejón in the year 2002, a seemingly dry and desolate place with large pits ranging in 15 miles as its circumference. But it just so happens to be the perfect place for scientists to collect fossil deposits. Please forgive me in advance as to how I pronounce some names. These help scientists create a picture for them to see how things have changed from when the dinosaurs were around and transitioned into what it was today. Cerrejón is the best and probably the only window on a complete ancient tropical ecosystem anywhere in the world, states paleontologist Carlos Jaramillo, a scientist who works at the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute. After the dinosaurs were wiped out, Cerrejón became a very swampy jungle. It was hot, wet, full of life, and extremely larger and the exact opposite than how it's viewed today. So what could that mean for the organisms that lived inside of it? The Smithsonian magazine calls it the Lord of this jungle. And now mind you, a regular anaconda makes it to the size of 33 feet. Well, this one was over 40 feet long and weighed in more than a ton. They state it had the same physical characteristics of a boa, but the personality of an anaconda. Great, having 2 aspects from both of the world's scariest snakes bottled into one. What could possibly go wrong? I quote, the thickest part of its body would be nearly as high as a man's waist. They then called this bad boy Titanoboa Sightings. Jorge Moreno Bernal, a Smithsonian intern at the time, was the one that claimed to have found it weeks prior. Jonathan Bloch and Jason Head, both paleontologists from Florida and Nebraska, accompanied Jorge in the incredible shadeless human environment to see the fossil. You just never find a snake skull. And we have one, states Bloch. When I find something good, it gets a biological reaction. It starts in my stomach. Yeah, there's something starting in my stomach too, and it isn't a good reaction. Arthur C. Clarke, a Belgium helicopter pilot, shares his experience of coming face to face with a giant snake in 1959 after coming back from a mission. Rumor has it that it's called the Congo snake, and so happens to be allegedly over 50 feet long, terrorizing the African Congo. Quite similarly to our friend the Titanoboa. Now, He didn't only see it, but this man actually managed to capture a photo of the supposed monster. He made several passes of where the snake was, and because of his experience as a pilot, states that he is very good with measuring things in terms of distance and how they would appear on the ground close up. I would say the snake I saw there was close to 50 feet, Clark claims. The color was a deep green and brown, with a very wide belly. The snake then began to rise upright, rising to about 10 feet in height with its jaws looking large and triangular. Quote, "It could have easily eaten up a man." End quote. I know Photoshop or any sort of photographic manipulation has been around for a while, so I'm not going to completely run with this image and say that it's real. However, it is very convincing, especially with how he was explaining his story and how his eyes would light up as he's recalling the memory of that day. The supposed Congo snake seems to be appearing everywhere online. But what are the possibilities of it being a descendant of the Titanoboa? The Congo has rainforest with similar climates to when the Titanoboa would be at its most prime in the Sahara. Aside from the ginormous looking snake itself, we don't get much else from the video aside from a few key details. Right off the bat, I am bombarded with the sound of a helicopter, mainly because I had my speakers on full blast accidentally. But it made me think a little back to Clark's video and remembering what he was talking about in terms of distance and size when it came to aircrafts. When looking closer at this video, we can see the craft is quite close to the ground, but with certain sizes of greenery looking quite small in comparison to the snake below. I'm mainly talking about the trees in the background and how they're not that far in distance to the thing, and overall really makes the snake much larger than if we were comparing it to the sandy banks and greenery below it. And when we remember about Clark's description of the snake, it was a greenish brown color. And that, my friends, looks like quite the brown snake to me. We are now traveling further back to August 19th, 1877, where an anonymous writer by the name of South Forker tells their tale about their experience with the giant snake. It was spotted in southern Humboldt, and although they were requested to tell their story and have it published on Signal, they were quite hesitant at first with having their word doubted, for they only speak the truth apparently. I was on a cliff of rocks about 50 feet above the river and stopped to watch the curious looking object. When I saw, to my surprise, it was a large serpent. The monster was at least 20 feet in the water, and its head was raised about 3 feet above the surface of the stream, and was about as large as a dog's head. It saw me, but did not seem to be alarmed, for it headed for the last cliff on which I was standing. They go on to explain that the snake was simply looking for shade as it disappeared beneath the cliff. The poster of this story was lucky that they weren't in the water at the same time, also trying to cool off. That could have ended extremely poorly. I've gotten the opportunity to touch a snake when I was younger, and it was the exact same texture as a leathery couch, but like a really muscular, leathery couch that moved. Now, if you like the history behind the Titanoboa and other gigantic snakes, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button, and I'll see you very soon.